Hello, everybody, and welcome back to day 2 of USO Con as we continue to bring together some of the most celebrated names in comics, film, television, and music to give service members and their families and our wider military community the opportunity to interact with their favorites. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Chris Jacobs, and it's my honor to be hosting the inaugural USO Con. And my next guest is no stranger to music fans and graphic novel fans alike, the creator of the Umbrella Academy and founding member of My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way. Gerard, thank you very much for joining me here today on USO Con. Good to see you, man.
You too. Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem at all, brother. Congratulations on the success of the Umbrella Academy, your graphic novel, of course, being created as a television series by Netflix. And, you know, during the time of the pandemic, everybody's turning to Netflix. So I'm sure that viewership is skyrocketing.
Yeah, I've been really flattered by it all. It's very humbling, you know, the amount of people like getting to take a look at this world and stuff. So it's been a great experience.
Gerard, why is the US so important to you? Why are you donating your time joining me today?
Because I think it's important to connect to the human beings that have made sacrifices defending freedoms, our liberties, you know. I think that's important. You know, before My Chemical Romance broke up, there was one instance we got to go, I believe, to a hospital in Maryland, where we got to visit some injured troops. And it was just a very human thing to be able to connect with them, you know. They just wanted to talk about our music or just, you know, or whatever, just to connect with a human being. And I think I think connecting with human beings is so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to remind everybody who is joining us right now that you can ask Gerard a question if you would like. Simply use your Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, type it in there. I will try to get to as many of those as possible. So, Gerard, which came first for you, the music or the art? Or maybe they come from the same seed?
Yeah, let's see. The art came first. So I was exposed to comics at a very early age. It was the 3rd grade. I just had my tonsils out. I was in the hospital, and my grandmother came and she brought me a 3-pack of comics. One of them was Captain America, and a Super Pickle, which you can kind of see on the shelf. I still have the Super Pickle she gave me. And I just fell in love with comics. And then, so then I started to go to the corner store. Me and my brother would take a walk, and then there was like all these comics on the wall, and we would just kind of like pick our favorites. And I got really into X-Men. And around this time I started to kind of make my own comics, and I would love to just tell stories and things like that. And then right around 15, I feel like that's when the music bug kind of bit me again. You know, I had played cello in elementary school. I'd done some singing and performed in plays, but then I wasn't like really crazy about the attention that brought, especially because I was playing Peter Pan. And so then I kind of shied away from music. But right around 15, like I really wanted an electric guitar. My parents got me one, and I joined a band, and I thought that was going to be like my life. I was like, this is amazing. And then I wasn't a very good guitar player, so I got kicked out of the band. So then I was like, well, what do I do now? That's it. I'm never going to be in a band. So I just got kicked out. So I guess I'm going to learn how to draw comics for real. And that was like my fallback was, you know.
Pretty good fallback position, especially considering what you were falling from necessarily was a very successful music career too. And I bet those guys who kicked you out of the band regret that now.
I don't know. I think about it often, you know. I don't fault them. Like I was really interested in making original music, and they were really interested in playing like Sweet Home Alabama and like cover songs.
Right.
I just couldn't hack it, you know? So I've never really faulted them. There's no bitterness from me, but then, you know, so then I went to school of visual arts. I actually went, and my major was cartooning and illustration. So I was published at 15. used that to kind of get into SVA, studied comics under some of the greats. And then I got out and I was kind of hitting the pavement trying to get work as a mainstream comic artist.
You know, it's interesting to note you mentioned Peter Pan, and I read when I was doing my research about you that was actually your first time singing in public. And it's ironic that your first time singing in public, which was your musical career, was actually a character that was animated, Peter Pan.
Right. Yeah, and my grandmother had made me the outfit, and it basically consisted of green tights. So you have like a husky third grader wearing green tights singing, "I don't want to grow up." So.
Kind of perfect, actually. Gerard, I got a question here for you from Jamie Hennis from Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And everybody probably wants to know, what was your inspiration behind the Umbrella Academy?
So there was a few things that inspired it. So, all right. So at this point, I'm in the band, and it's during the Revenge album, and we're touring. We're playing arenas with the Used, and we're doing that. But I really miss art. Like, there was this part of me that I left behind to do music, and I missed it tremendously. So we were in Japan, and a fan came to a signing and gave me a set of Copic markers. And they were wonderful markers. Like, they're some of my favorite markers. And I just started creating characters. You know, it had been so long. And I was inspired by a few things. Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison and Richard Case, they had just started re-releasing that in trade form. So that just started to come out again. And I read it, and I had read it when I was a teen, and just brought back all these wonderful memories. And I learned things about the story that I didn't get when I was 15. And I was like, I want to make a comic like this. And so that was, you know, that was a big influence. The Amazing Screw-On Head by Mike Mignola was a big influence. And then I just kind of, what I do, and I still do this to this day, I write down like a big list of things that inspire me. You know, it could be like tarot cards, fortune teller, Abraham Lincoln, you know, just this list. And then I create characters based off that list of interests.
Aiden Buchanan from Fort Myer, Virginia asked that same question about what were your influences for the Umbrella Academy. So Aiden, I hope that answered your question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I watched the first episode of the Umbrella Academy on Netflix, which I highly recommend, it struck me as very rock operatic right away. Like, I could envision that, like, you know, The Who's Tommy or Pink Floyd The Wall. It had that flavor because your musical director did a fantastic job. I believe it's a Kinks song that's right in kind of the opening. Yeah. Did you have any say in what music went along with the Netflix series?
You know, Steve Blackman, the showrunner, he has like a very distinct vision of the music for the show. And he literally will write these songs into the scripts, you know, so he kind of sees this vision. And that was another thing about doing Umbrella Academy as a show. I was able to kind of let go and allow somebody else to show the world their vision of it, you know? I was able to kind of disconnect and say, these are my comics, nothing will ever change those, but, you know, this very talented individual and a crew of people and a cast, they have a slightly different vision for that. And I was able to kind of really, in a positive way, kind of let go control of that. One of the things Steve is very important to him is the music. So I would give notes about music, but I didn't have much input on the music in the show.
Was that tough for you, giving up that control, being a musician and kind of having this vision, I'm sure, of what the show sounded like or should sound like, according to you?
Yeah, because like when I was writing Apocalypse Suite, I was listening to bands like the Pixies or Teenage Fan Club or Oasis, and that's the music I saw in my head for Umbrella Academy, you know? But he just went in this kind of different direction and, you know, really honed it in on that second season. I think the song choices were really good.
All right, Gerard, we have a question for you from Kylie, who is 14 years old. She says, hi, my name's Kylie. I'm 14 and I love to draw comics and other things. I would really like to know how you came up with the characters in the Umbrella Academy.
I drew, you know, I don't know how true it is anymore, But there was this thing I had heard way back in the day that basically says, write what you know. That's what everybody, that's like a golden rule that people talk about. Write what you know, write what you know. And so what I knew at the time was being in a somewhat functional, dysfunctional family, which is what a band kind of is, especially a band of individuals in this kind of pressure cooker of like a really rapid rise, coming from a really small place and being in a van and sleeping on people's floors, to then like playing arenas and videos on TV and stuff like that. So I had to kind of like, get comfortable with that. And, but you're in a pressure cooker. So it was a dysfunctional family that managed to function enough to make records and play on stage. So there's a little bit of not only me and all these characters, but there's a little bit of my friends and loved ones in these characters as well.
When I was perusing YouTube, I came across a video of you in a comic book store, picking out some comics that you liked, and certainly things that were influential and favorites of yours as you were growing up. And one of the ones that you pointed out was something by Neil Gaiman. John Schmelzer from Baumholder, Germany, he's probably stationed there. He'd like to know if you ever thought about collaborating with someone like Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I love Neil. We're friends, and I am a big fan of his work. I love his comic work, and then I love what he was then able to do in the novel world, and I love his brain. He has a fantastic brain, and I would love to do something with him one day. Another person I would love to collaborate with is Grant Morrison, who, as I mentioned, wrote those Doom Patrol comics that inspired the Umbrella Academy. And he's a dear friend, and I would absolutely love to collaborate with him as well.
So Clarinda Lopez asks a very interesting question, kind of like a Sophie's Choice. Who's your favorite Umbrella Academy character and why?
I kind of go between, obviously there are moments when I'm writing them that I absolutely love them more than any of the other characters. But I think like I was able to identify with Klaus's kind of struggles with addiction. I think I was able to like really put a lot of my own struggles into that character. And then on the other side though, when I'm writing Allison, when I'm writing Rumor, I get to put a lot of my kind of humanity in that, and she to me feels like the most human of all of the siblings and the most haunted, I think, even more haunted than Klaus.
It's such a great aspect of the show and the characters that they have these kind of public personas, and then they have, the superhero persona. So they have their public name and they have their superhero name.
Yeah.
Interesting aspect, kind of a self-contained yin and yang for each.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then there's the addition of the numbers too. So these characters really have like 3 names.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I did that initially. Well, I wanted them to be numbered by their father to show that disconnect, kind of how he was a bit impersonal with them and he saw them as like this experiment. So I figured he just gave them numbers. Then he created Mom as a robot. He asked her to give them proper names because he felt like they needed it. And then right around the time they were teenagers and young adults, that's when they developed their superhero names.
Yeah, his character is so like immediately fully formed, because when we first see him on screen, he's offering that young mother to buy the child. And I think he refers to the child as it. How much do you want for it?
Yes.
So it's real and personal nature, like right off the bat. It's so well done the way it's established like that. Let me get to another question here for you. This is from Ronald Hernandez. He's from Joint Base Lewis McChord. And he wants to know, is there any talks about making a video game based on the Umbrella Academy graphic novel?
I feel like that topic only came up once, like a long time ago, and wasn't ever something we pursued or looked into, like not even something like a mobile game or something more simple. But yeah, it doesn't come up much for that, for video games.
Gerard, when you first conceived the Umbrella Academy, did you ever envision it making it to live action? And I mean, certainly the way Netflix has done it, so stylized. They obviously put a big budget behind it. The show is very well done, very well produced, with some very big names, not only in casting, but the production of it. Did you envision that ever when you first conceived the graphic novel?
You know, one of the things I learned when I started writing the Umbrella Academy, and the advice that I got, was to really embrace the comics medium, to not write it like a movie. Even though I'm a really visual thinker when I script. So there's like art direction happening, panel breakdowns, and I see the page in my head. So my scripts end up being really dense and kind of lots of explanation with stuff. Because there's like set dressing and all that stuff. But I got off track from the question. The question was,
well, did you conceive it ever becoming a live action show when you were writing the graphic novel?
Right. I don't know. The thing about comics that I love so much is that anything is possible. The budgets are a lot smaller than big blockbuster films. You're taking care of your creative team and they're getting paid, but you're able to do anything. I think anything is possible in comics. And I don't know that I feel the same way about the visual medium. But very early on, when we won the Eisner for Best Series, there was talks right away about making it into a film through Universal. And so then I did engage with that, and I did have to start seeing it as a live action thing,
Much more appropriate, I think, that it's become a series instead of a movie, because it allows the idea to breathe a lot more. You can get a lot more instead of trying to pack everything into 90 minutes or 2 hours. Got another one here for you, Gerard, from Skylar Boyd. He says, "Your music means so much to me, and I can say it saved my life when I was younger. What is your creative process? How do you get into the mindset to get ready to create your art?"
There's a couple ways I go at it. Basically, first of all, I'm like really lucky to have an audience in the first place. And they support what I do, no matter what kind of little adventure I want to go on and explore. So when I wake up in the morning, I generally get to decide what I'm going to make that day. Now, there's deadlines and stuff and all that. But the process, basically, it's a combination of these moments of intense inspiration, which don't happen often, and then other times where you just have to kind of grind through it. And as Neil Gaiman said, I believe he said, just put one word in front of the other and keep doing that, because you're not going to, I also read a quote once that said, inspiration is for amateurs, but I like to feel inspiration. It's, I guess my brain really firing and I really love it. But then there's times where I do just have to write,
Are you experienced enough now in your creativity that when you feel that inspiration coming on, that you got to get it out right away because it's not going to last?
Yeah. Like something will come up, like I'll get a new idea for something, but I'll have to write script for something else. I'll make sure to write as much of that as I need to, but then I'll just go over. Basically, I follow the inspiration whenever it hits me. Like, if that means I spend 2 days on something when I should have been working on something else, I'll still do it. And that's probably why my stuff takes a while to come out.
Gerard, Amber Keck from Fort Hood, Texas asks, what is most challenging about bringing the Umbrella Academy to life for you? What obstacles and hurdles did you face bringing the graphic novel to life?
Well, when the whole thing started about it, becoming a show, I had a meeting with Dark Horse and UCP, who's the production company, and Don from UCP asked me, and this was well after a bunch of like Hollywood stuff with the film and it just not happening, and and then this new idea came to make it a show. She said, "What do you want from this? What is your goal?" And I and after years of experience working in Hollywood and putting what I feel too much of myself into the process, I said, I want to make the best comics that I can. So that way you guys have great material to work with to make a great show. Now, I ended up being more involved than that. but that was my initial gut instinct. But as a co-executive producer, and Gabrielle and I both being co-executive producers, what we do is we talk to the writers' room. Like every season, Steve will have me, or if Gabrielle's in town, Gabrielle will come with me, and we talk to the writers, and they ask us questions, and we explain things. And I create them documents with a bunch of information, and then the scripts start to come in, and then Gabrielle and I give notes on scripts. Costume designs come in, we give notes on that. So it involves us giving as many notes as we would like to give, and then we know the control isn't ultimately in our hands, but then we always feel listened to, we always feel heard, and there are changes that come from our notes.
So you guys sound like you're pretty hands-on. I mean, each step of the way you're involved in. Sometimes, an executive producer credit is just given to someone and then that's it. You're not involved. But it sounds like you guys are pretty much step-by-step involved.
Well, we're involved, like I said, in a kind of non-invasive, in a notes way. Like, I do really have to give all the credit for this show to Jeremy Slater, who developed it, Steve Blackman, the showrunner, all the cast and crew. I really try to do my best job to stay out of the way. As much as I've given notes and things like that, there's times where I definitely eased off that because I wanted to stay out of the way.
Yeah, and the show is in good hands, so.
Yes, exactly. There's a trust there, and I have that trust with Steve. So I just kind of cheer him on from the sidelines.
Well, they're doing a very fine job of it, by the way. Gerard, Hillary Taylor says, hi from Camp Foster in Okinawa, Japan. I understand your background in animation includes creating an animated series, Breakfast Monkey. Would you be interested in writing and creating another animated series?
Something that came up recently in the last 3 months, somebody had reached out, a producer had reached out through my agent and said, hey, would you like to do something animated, maybe an anime? And I had genuinely never considered that before, And so it's an idea I'm developing right now, and it would be kind of the first animated thing that I ever did, officially, And so that's exciting because it's a whole new medium to play in, So it's definitely possible to go into making animation.
Based on your kind of crossroads of music and art, I spoke about this earlier, but you occur to me as being someone like Pete Townsend, like Roger Waters. Any plans to meld the two of your passions, art and music, and perhaps produce some sort of musical film?
Yeah, that's another thing that comes up. Basically, so 9/11 happened, and up to that point, I was pitching this cartoon, The Breakfast Monkey. But at that moment, that 9/11 happened, I was right across the water in Hoboken, and we were all these people watching the buildings go down, and it was like this megaton bomb of anguish going off. Collectively feel it, and it feels like it just completely went right through me. It was so powerful. And in that moment, maybe a little bit foolishly or angrily, I said, I'm done with art. I'm going to do something that helps people. I'm going to make music, but as I kept doing the band, I noticed I was making art. I started to do things like with wardrobe or set design. And then by the time we got to Black Parade, it was just, all of it was art, it was like this expressionistic art. So there are talks for sure all the time about taking that and doing something like when Roger Waters does The Wall, and making some kind of musical out of it, because it's got the bones of that.
Yeah, and those inspirations that you mentioned, I've heard you talk about them before, where you're listening to a lot of Bowie and Iggy Pop, and I'm sure Talking Heads too. All of those kind of very visual type of music. Because you and I grew up in kind of the same era where MTV was just starting, and the music really became visual as well. just audio.
Yes, and yeah, we really embraced that. I loved the visual. I loved connecting visuals because, like I said, I'm a visual thinker. So even when I'm writing these songs with the guys, I'm visually seeing sometimes the video, or or any images that may be playing behind us on stage. Like I'm always seeing that stuff.
Gerard, one last question from the Q&A here. This comes from Aditya Utoyo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they say, aloha, just straight question. When is the next season? I can't wait for what's next, and a bit of teaser for next season, or for more graphic novels of the Umbrella Academy.
Well, I think in terms of the show, nothing has been confirmed yet. Usually Netflix likes to wait before they officially greenlight something. But I think in terms of the show itself, we're in a really interesting position now if you've seen the second season and you know how it ends. So I think, if we got another season of the show, it would be absolutely incredible. In terms of the comics, I'm in the middle of writing volume 4, and really excited about it. Gabrielle is ready to draw it. I've been a little bit behind on it, but that's what I'm doing right now, is writing volume 4. And originally we had discussed doing 8 graphic novels because I think there was enough story for that. And then over the years, as we get older and they take us longer and longer to do, then it went down to 7, and now it might be 6. But because I want to tell this story completely and have that chapter of my life end in a good way. And I owe it to the readers to deliver the rest of the story to them. So I think about them a lot.
Well, Umbrella Academy, certainly a big success for Netflix. Congratulations on that. Again, if you haven't seen it, perfect time to binge on it. Seasons 1 and 2 are available on Netflix right now, and hopefully we're going to be getting a season 3. Creator Gerard Way, thank you so much for joining me here. Before we go, I want to give you a short opportunity to offer some words of encouragement and support for our troops who are joining us.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I wanted to express was my gratitude for the sacrifice and the courage and the dedication and the hard work. And if I could leave you all with anything, I would say it's really important to take care of your mental health. I think it's super important. I'm sure you all, and would hope you all have very good resources within the military to find people to talk to. I think talk therapy, I'm a big believer, I'm also somebody that takes medication to keep me balanced, but I never push that on people, Some people it's right for them, some people it's not right for them, and some people don't want to deal with the side effects. But medication aside, I think just traditional talk therapy is so important. And I think, you shouldn't feel ashamed to talk about those feelings. And sometimes you can end up fitting with a really amazing therapist, and you have this relationship of trust, and you're able to share things, and a good therapist will give you new perspective on it. So I would say, use the resources available to you. I find mental health to be one of the most important things in the world. And, take care of yourselves and be good to yourselves.
Thanks, Gerard. That's great advice. And those sage words are going out worldwide: North Carolina, Italy, Hawaii, Alaska, Turkey, Virginia, California, Ohio, Japan, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Germany, New Jersey, Nevada, Maryland, Washington, Delaware, Illinois, New York, Idaho, Arizona, Kansas, New Mexico, United Kingdom, South Korea, Colorado, and Georgia.
Wow.
Please let me get through that list, but those are all of the places that people are joining us from, Gerard, and I can't thank you enough for being part of USO Con.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, man. We'll see you on down the road.
Okay.